Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call.
Corey Cody.
Here.
Larry Darren.
Here.
Chair Hilbert.
Here.
Dylan Pauly, excuse absence. Norm Bull.
Present.
Michelle Woodruff, excuse. Well, actually,
Present.
Michelle, yes. Yeah, you're on. And then also just a reminder to turn on your microphones if you will be speaking. And Matt Mendoza.
Present.
Okay, you have a forum.
Okay. Adoption of agenda.
Make a motion for that.
Support. All in favor of adopting the agenda? Raise your hand. Opposed? Agenda has been adopted. Public meeting participation rules. Public meeting participation rules. 1, please wait for the chair to acknowledge you before you speak. 2, begin by stating your name and address. 3, give us comments, opinions, or questions on the issue being discussed. 4, to ensure that everyone has time to speak, we can address other items on the agenda, we may limit an individual speaking time to 5 minutes. If time permits, we may allow one additional time period to provide new information. 5, be respectful of the planning commission, applicant, and your neighbors. Again, thank you for attending. Tom Hilberg, Chair. Okay, approval of minutes, December 13th, 2021. Yeah, motion for that.
I'll make that motion.
Norm and Larry second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approved. Okay, public comment. If anybody here is here for either the case that we have going on or in regard to the ordinance, I guess you could wait till then, or if you really can't wait, you can do it right now. But if you have something for the good of the planning commission or not, stand in and tell us what's going on right now.
Our call.
Go ahead. I mean, we're not nasty. We won't.
No, but I don't know what you're going to discuss anyway. This Mike Schmansky, 975 Greenhaven Lane in the township there by Sunset School. And the only thing that caught me was the paper with the marijuana. How could anyone, even micro businesses in a residential area? Totally against that. I don't know how we even could come up with that, because that's where we're growing our children, hopefully. And I'm speaking for the children in Alpena Township. I don't know of a parent that would really raise their child to want to use marijuana. It's a federally drug that's illegal. Yeah, the people in Michigan okayed it, but the Alpena Township people didn't. We voted against it. So to chase the few tax dollars that are there, I don't think is worth it, and at least get it out of the residential areas, if that's what was in the paper is printed true. So if you want to discuss that more with your laws, but I'm a township resident. We did vote against it, I think, which you know. of having marijuana even legal in the state when the vote was on, so hopefully some votes count. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? And you will have a chance when we open the public hearing for the ordinance also, if you wanted to, if you want to wait till then, you can do that. Okay, correspondence. Report 0122 by Rick Dool. That's on the case. We have an email from M. Conley, an email from H. Sarkowski and T. Springer. Need a motion to,
Well, yeah, we need a motion to receive and file, but we also have inclusion of the subsection E, and it's an email correspondence from Wayne France in regard to this case.
okay. FRANTZ, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So we need a motion to include those in our,
To receive and
to
file.
receive and file.
That is correct.
Did letters come out for these emails? Do we have it? I do not have that. What, did those get sent out and I didn't get them, or does anybody have them, or are you gonna read them? Those three emails.
I got them and I assumed that she sent them to everybody, but
Did anybody else get them?
I have copies here from the agenda.
Just the agenda.
Yeah.
Pardon?
You can use it. There's 3 pages in each. Is
Yeah, I believe
email.
that Ms. Nelson did send them out, but I,
Go ahead.
well, if they didn't get them, that's a.
Nobody else got 'em?
on my part.
This is on Ballinger.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
still waiting for a motion to receive and file correspondence on this case. Or if there's anybody that needs these, I do have some more copies.
That was my oversight on my part. I didn't notice that she did not send them to the rest of the board. So we can read them.
Yeah, read them.
Yeah, I don't have
So do you want me to, should I read them before we bring them into the,
I think it would be before you take the motion to
Okay.
receive and file, if other members haven't had the opportunity to see them. I think that they should be made aware of the positions of the neighborhood.
okay,
Do you want me to just work through them quick and read them out?
it's up to, go ahead.
Okay, can I borrow, just so it's. Okay, the first email attachment is from Mike Conley. Tonight, blah, blah, blah. You're gonna make a decision on case P01-22, Amy Bellinger, allowing a tiny home as a primary residence for 3576 Elkajan Beach Road. I'd like to go on record as being opposed to this request. I am a resident of 3693 Elkajan Beach Road and feel this would have a negative effect on the surrounding properties. Thank you, Mike Conley. Harry Shikuski, thank you for taking my call tonight. So you know, I am writing to voice my concern over the building of a tiny home this evening. I'm against it. I bought the property at 3955 Elkajan Beach Road last year and planning a second home there once I narrow down a contractor. If you can please send me the plans you told me about, I'll also join the meeting via Zoom. And I don't see him on Zoom potentially. Third letter is from Mr. Spranger of 3570 Elkajan Beach Road. I am the owner of one of the adjoining property parcels 018-120-000-074-00. I wanted to learn more on the proposed changes and what the owner planned to do if the special approval use were given. As my property is extremely close in proximity, I had been informed when I purchased my land that the lot in question was not buildable. If this is to be changed, I hope that this matter will be considered at an upcoming meeting before the special approval request is given in order to properly represent the people affected by it. I was not aware that the meeting scheduled tonight was canceled, but I saw the note on the door. Please inform me of any upcoming plans. And then email I got this morning from Wayne France that I'd like to note is. Sorry about this.
Here, I'll read it.
Okay, you have it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't have it.
It's from Wayne France to Lynn Dose. We are writing with regard to the request from Amy Bellinger to build a tiny home on her lot on El Cajon Beach Road. We have spoken to other members of El Cajon Beach subdivision, each of whom was not in favor of this request. Here are some of the issues raised. One, it is our understanding that El Cajon Beach subdivision is governed by the rules set up by the subdivision was created many years ago. We don't have a copy of those rules, but we believe the township should have them. If all of the current members of the subdivision follow those rules, it is appropriate that the township should be able to ignore them. If those documents exist, the planning commission should review them prior to making a judgment. Two, the rest of the landowners in the subdivision had to follow all the R3 zoning codes. We don't feel it is fair that Ms. Bellinger will not have to follow these codes. Three, if Ms. Bellinger is planning to offer the tiny home as a vacation rental, it is our understanding that another rule set up in the original subdivision documents say no guests may use the provided beach property without the landowner being present, and she needs to be made aware of this. Four, any tiny home will bring down the property values of all other lots within the subdivision. We are definitely not in favor of this request. Wayne and Barb France, 3974 El Cajon Beach Road, Alpena, Michigan. And he gives his email and phone number.
So now you could entertain a motion.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Also,
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we will enter these emails in. Okay, public hearing. We are doing public hearing number one, case P-01-22. Amy Bellinger requests special approval use to allow a tiny home as a principal dwelling on a parcel. Property is located at 3576 El Cajon Beach Road. Parcel number 018-120-000-074-00 in a mixed residential R3 zone. Is there a representative of, is the owner or a representative of the owner here? On, how about on Zoom? Do we have the owner or representative of the owner? Okay. I'm not used to not having a representative of the owner here, but anyway, all right. Anybody else want to speak pro or against or whatever on this issue? Confine it to this issue on the tiny home, please. If anybody wants to, has comments on that. Nobody? Okay. Now, anybody online have any comments they want to make? Okay. Okay, we're up to the planning commission members.
Chair Hilbert.
Yeah.
I'd like just a point of clarification that I believe that Council Golden can, to Wayne Francis' last email in the subdivision, if you could make everybody aware of those potential provisions through the subdivision clause versus our zoning.
Oh, good point.
He
Okay.
raised, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, he raised the fact that there may be restrictive covenants for this
Yes,
subdivision.
yes, that's what I believe he's saying, yes.
Normally, it's apart from any zoning regulations that you're operating under in making this decision. But usually as a courtesy, we tell the applicant, be aware, the municipality may approve under the requirements of the zoning ordinance, whether it's a zoning permit, or if it's a building issue, a building permit, a special use permit, a variance, whatever the situation is. But that doesn't insulate the person from the effect of any restrictive covenants that may attach to that property in that neighborhood. Homeowners associations or any property owner in that subdivision have the ability to enforce those restrictive covenants. We as a municipality don't get mixed up with those because we don't enforce them. And we don't come up with a judgment as to whether they're ambiguous or the meaning of them or the enforceability of them, whether they've been waived and other judicial rules that might stem from that. But we want applicants to be aware that just because a municipality authorizes something it doesn't erase that potential issue.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
You are.
Kevin, you're not aware of anything like that? Okay.
And as a township representative, we do not house the subdivision guidance rules or their bylaws. We would not be the mechanism that would retain that file. Typically, it would be an HOA or potentially Alpena County could have been filed with.
Usually they're recorded with the register of deeds. So when we buy our property, we're presumed to know that we've got rules that the subdivider or a homeowners association always on our property.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll review the report from Rick Dool.
Well, you need to pass a motion to have the public hearing. And then
Okay.
close the public hearing if there's no comment upon this case.
Okay,
Before you go.
I'll make the motion, we close.
close public hearing.
I'll support.
Support, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Tell us when we need roll
And
call.
who supported that motion?
I did.
Okay.
Matt. Okay, now we will go over the report finding of facts by Rick Dool, prepared for report 01-22, prepared for Charter Township of Alpena Planning Commission, prepared by Richard Dool, planning consultant, January 4th, 2022. Case P 0122, parcel 018-120-000-07400, owner Amy Bellinger. Action, special use for a tiny home, 392 square feet as the principal dwelling on a parcel located in the mixed residential R3 zoning district. Tiny homes as a principal dwelling from 250 square feet to 959 square feet require a special use permit. Finding of fact, and if anybody has any questions as we go along, make sure that you stop me. Property is located at 3576 Alcojon Beach Road, Alpena, lot 74 of the South Addition to the replat of Alcojon Beach subdivision. Section B, district standards. The parcel is located in a mixed residential R3 zone district. Tiny homes are permitted with special use permit and must follow supplemental development regulations. Lot area is 68,325 square feet. Parcel complies with the minimum lot standards. Lot width, the lot width is 75 and the minimum lot width in R3 is 100. However, it is considered a lot of record. The parcel complies with the minimum lot size standards. Building height, 1-story structure complies with the standards. Lot coverage complies with standards and does not exceed 35% of the lot. Setbacks comply with standards for front, side, and rear yard setbacks. Setbacks 162 feet from El Cajon Beach Road. Side yard setbacks of 20 and 41 feet. And rear yard setback of 136 feet. Minimum floor area, minimum required standard is 960 square feet. The proposed structure will be 14 by 28 with a floor area of 392 square feet. A special permit is required for structures that meet the standards of tiny homes as a principal dwelling from 250 square feet to 959 square feet. Section 740, tiny homes shall be allowed as principal dwelling on a parcel as freestanding accessory dwelling units, and in a planned unit development, tiny homes shall conform to current building code. Section 602, adjacent special land use approval standards. Adjacent uses, the use and locations and size of use and the nature and intensity of operation shall not be such as to disrupt the orderly and proper development of the district as a whole, or be in conflict with or discourage the principal permitted uses of adjacent or neighboring lands and buildings. A tiny home is consistent with a residential development in this area. No potential issues identified. Number 2, special land use shall not be more objectionable to nearby properties by reason of traffic, noise, vibration, dust, fumes, smoke, glare, flashing lights, or disposal of waste than the operation of any principal permitted use. The tiny home residential use of the property will not create objectionable conditions to nearby residential properties. No potential issues are identified. 3, the use. Yes,
Excuse me.
go ahead.
The standard has been met.
Yes.
Oh, are we, okay, we're assuming yes, or we didn't say anything.
No, I said no potential issues identified. Okay. The use shall not increase hazards from fire and or other damage to either property or adjacent properties. The proposed use would increase hazards beyond those that currently exist in the residential neighborhood. No potential issues identified. It says the proposed use would increase the hazards. I think he means wouldn't increase the hazard. Would not increase the hazards beyond those currently exist in residential neighborhoods. No potential issues identified. Number 4, the planning commission may consider the potential impact on property values of nearby properties when determining the impact of a proposed special land use on adjacent properties. The tiny home would be an improvement to the residential neighborhood. No potential issues identified. According to him, he believes there's no, we've got letters that believe contrary, but traffic and access. The use shall not increase traffic hazard or cause congestions on public highways and streets of the area. Adequate access to the use shall be furnished by either existing roads or highways or proposed roads and highways. The proposed use will not cause an appreciable increase in traffic volumes and hazards. Access is provided off El Cajon Beach Road. No potential issues identified. Public service, water supply, sewer disposal systems shall be adequate for the proposed use. Applicant will provide on-site water supply and sewage disposal according to the health department. Number two, the use will be adequately served by essential public services and facilities, or that the person responsible for the establishment of the proposed use will adequately provide any such service or facility. Applicant will provide needed services and facilities beyond what is currently available. The use will not create excessive additional public cost and will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the township. No potential issues identified.
Chair Hilbert. if I
Yes.
may. I would actually like to, because this is a case that I did not have a lot of insight, as the paperwork was filed 5 minutes before the deadline. I believe that our building official, Kevin Crawley, has had more interaction with the owner. Has there been any discussion of the facilities in terms of?
As far as water, sewer, and so on, okay. But I guess we always put that onto the health department,
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And some small tiny homes don't, they haul their, I don't know in this case, but
How does that meet your? Sir, this is not the time.
well, we, on one other one, on another one we approved, they were not gonna do well in septic. They were gonna haul and have their,
Yeah, that was before, that should actually. Should have been a well. At that point, you just had to change it.
okay. I wasn't aware of that, but,
Well, and that was under the guise of Don Gilman at that time,
okay.
who said that was allowable, so. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's fine. Okay, natural resources. The tiny home will not create a substantial negative impact on the natural resources of the township or the natural environment as a whole. No, according to this section, the landscape shall be preserved in its natural state as far as practical by minimizing tree and soil removal, and any grade or slope changes will be in keeping with the general appearances of the neighborhood. I guess our building official would, if approved, would make sure they comply to that. Right, Kevin? Yeah. Okay, in general, the use will not impair the purpose and intent of this ordinance. No potential issues identified. Okay, based on the analysis of the information provided, the tiny home meets the ordinance standards for a special permit. Okay, now we're at the point where we, does anybody have,
I still got a question.
Go ahead.
On this number 3.
number 3?
The proposed use would increase hazards beyond those that currently exist in the residential neighborhood.
And maybe I shouldn't assume this, but I said the proposed use would not, because he said no potential issues identified. But it does say would increase. But I guess I don't know how that would happen. Kevin, you have any comment on that? Yeah, but the traffic is a better, is a different point. No, you're right. That's what it says, Norm, but
Do we need to clarify?
But if the commission's going to do a motion to accept Mr. Dool's findings and conclusions as written, then you're gonna want to make sure that you clarify that you make
Okay.
that correction.
Beautiful.
And you're not bound by every finding and conclusion he's made. That's part of this process right now. So if anybody's got a problem with any of them, you'll want the minutes to reflect that. And any motion should address if you're
Okay,
agreeing
yes,
with all of
yes,
them or part of them or.
Yes. Thank you, Tim. So you good, Norm?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, and you're right, that's what it says, but. Okay, options, motion to approve the special use for construction of tiny home located at 3576 Elka Beach Road, Alpena, Michigan, lot 74 of the south addition to the replat of Elka Beach subdivision and on parcel number 08120000074000 based on findings of fact contained in report 0122. Our second option, motion to approve the special land use for construction of tiny home located at 3576 Elka Beach Road, Alpena, Michigan, lot 74 of the south addition to the replat of Elka Beach subdivision and on parcel number 0181200007400 based on findings of fact and report with the following conditions. That's where we would insert, we would correct that
Yeah,
condition if we.
Right,
if
you're
we
not
chose to.
bound to what Mr. Dool has come up with. You can adopt them wholeheartedly without any additions. You can disagree with any of them. You can add conditions. You can.
And
And findings.
the point of clarification is actually before you get into a motion of the three options presented to this commission is a motion and support to adopt and approve Rick Dool's findings. And then that motion, you could actually highlight and clarify number three. So right now, before we get to the case and the motion at hand, you would need a motion and support to adopt and approve Rick Dool's findings.
Okay.
of the applicable zoning ordinance standards in its report. And we'll do that by roll call.
Okay,
But
we
that
need,
would be the discussion of clarification on point three, if you will.
we need a motion. to-
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
And I want that clarification. on
yes. With that clarification, correct? Okay. Matt, okay. Norm and Matt, second.
Okay, roll call. Code? Yes, sir. Yea or nay?
Nay.
Darren? Yea or nay? This- And this is just for Rick Dool's findings of fact.
Okay.
So we had a nay vote. Right. There.
Right.
Chair Hilbert,
Aye.
trustee Foley,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodosi,
Yes.
and unfortunately, Michelle is not able to vote. And the ayes have it, 3-2.
3-2.
For the finding of fact from Rick Dool, not to this case,
Yeah, not-
with
not the,
clarification to number 3. That is the motion. So now if you're moving forward with the conditions of the 3 principal motions to support or
Okay.
deny, this is.
Do I have to, do you want me to read? I read number 1 and number 2. You want me to read them again?
If you could, please. I'm
Okay.
missing that page from my packet.
Oh, I'm sorry. He just gives example motions.
Okay.
Motion to approve the special land use for the construction of a tiny home located at 3576 Elka Beach Road, Alpena, Michigan, 49707, lot 74 of the south addition to the replat of Elka Beach subdivision on parcel number 018120000-074-00 based on the findings of fact contained in report 0122. The second example he gave is motion to approve the special land use for construction of a tiny home located at 3576 Elka Beach Road, Alpena, Michigan, lot 74 of the south addition to the replat of Elka Beach subdivision and on parcel number 0181200007400 based on the findings of fact contained in report 012 with the following conditions. See conditions. We would have to include that in the motion. If so, and the third option is motion to deny the special land use for the construction of the tiny home located at 3576 Elka Beach Road, Alpena, Michigan, 49707, lot 74 of the South Addition to the replat of El Cajon Beach subdivision and on parcel number 018-120-000-074-00 based on the findings of fact contained in the report 0122 and the following reasons. List the reasons and finding of fact used to make the decision.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions?
At this point, I'm you.
Yeah, we have to make a motion. Doesn't have to be exactly those. There's only examples, but we have to make some kind of a motion.
Yeah, well, I guess, Mr. Polly, Kevin, if you could, address at the podium, address to the planning commission, from your standpoint, if there's potential, conditions or stipulations that would be, in need, if a motion was to be supported.
For the tiny houses to come in now, they should have a well and septic permit also with them, some way to get rid of their wastewater and that. That would be my main concern. Because some people may just dump the gray water on the ground and say, well, that's good enough. Pile the sewer away or have a mace heater toilet there, but you're supposed to have a running faucet and a working bathroom in a home to be occupiable. So if they can do that, I don't have a problem with it. We can give them a building permit, they follow the state codes and we're good to go.
So you basically, they have to have the well and septic before you're,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, because otherwise you just got a camper sitting out there basically. They can drag in and out. And
Okay,
so
anything else? You're good?
I'm good then.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Norm,
Would you have to have a well before you could get the permit? Because I question whether wells are obtainable out there.
Yeah. There's obviously wells out there. I mean, there's cottages on both sides of the road, houses, so. They drill a well and they have a spot for a septic tank. And later on, if they pulled the tiny house off and built a true house there, they'd already be that far ahead.
anything else? All right, so we have somebody has to make a motion, one similar to 1, 2, or 3. And I don't think I can make motions, correct?
Chair should never make
Okay.
motions, that is correct.
Or there's always a number 4, can you table it or not?
This commission can table a case.
Okay,
I would advise that the commission, this is the second time that this is a delay to a secondary date from the original case date that was supposed to be presented on in regards to this case. So it'd be, I wouldn't say that it would be a disservice to the applicant, but it would also be a financial burden to the township, given the fact that we have to go back to, then we'd have a third time for advertising and posting. So that would put it out yet another month and put an additional dollar allocation back on the township.
I mean, it meets the finding, basically, it meets Rick's finding of facts, included in also with Kevin's, but
Well, you've got a 3-2 vote that it meets
yeah,
the standards and
Yeah.
and that 3 out of the 5 agree. with the findings, but now this is a
Now we need a
separate
motion.
consideration, but based on those findings of fact and Mr. Duell's conclusions.
I'll make a motion that we approve this with, that the well and septic definitely be part of that. And also that this number 3, I think that's gonna be, I'm sorry. And number 3 in Rick Duell's report have an effect on that. That we approve this.
I'll support.
Okay, Matt. Norm made the motion.
Yep.
Nathan, you have it?
Supported by Matt Verdosi.
Yes.
To grant the special use application for case P -01-22 with the following conditions. Well and septic must be implemented. And the second one
Was the number 3 on the finding of facts?
Get that clear.
Norm, would your motion be based upon Mr. Duell's findings and conclusions with the correction to number 3?
Okay.
Yeah, 602(3) should, the use shall not increase hazards from fire or other dangers to either the property or adjacent properties. And what it says now is the proposed use would increase hazards beyond those that currently exist in the residential neighborhood. But then it says no potential issues identified. So that should say would not.
It is confusing.
Yeah.
So point of clarification is well suited in this event.
Any more discussion? Okay, we are ready.
Okay, Daring,
Yes.
Hilbert,
Aye.
Foley,
Yes.
Redosi,
Yes.
Code,
Yes.
Pass. Are absent in our online participants. Okay. Motion passed. You're out of case P-01-22. Moving forward to ordinance 150.
Okay, just let me have 1 second. I'm just gonna fill this out. Okay. Okay, our next is the public hearing of ordinance number 150, zoning ordinance amended to consider allowing medical marijuana facilities and adult use marijuana establishments.
Would you like to make a motion to open the public hearing?
Yes.
I'll make some motion.
Larry. Matt, second. just voice, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, okay. Before we allow, I want to thank you all for coming to this. This is a process that began June 14th, 2021 meeting with review of examples of other communities' ordinance to allow marijuana facilities in other communities, medical and recreational. Review further at January 12th, 2021 meeting, August 9th, 2021 meeting, a presentation by Quentin Meek Sterling Insurance Group at the August 2009 meeting, August 30th, 2021, a workshop was held. At that workshop, we a motion was made whether we want to continue on writing this, revising our ordinance, and it was that motion was passed unanimously to continue on. Develop the ordinance. Where are we now? We have a draft of the ordinance that would allow marijuana facilities, both medical and recreational use establishments in the Township of Alpena. So that's just kind of how it started and how it progressed as we went along. And all of these meetings were open for public comment. So that it just this isn't I guess I just want to make it clear that this isn't something we just tried to sneak in or anything. So I mean, the meetings were all open to the public, and some public did participate. The gentleman, lady in the front row did, and that's fine if you didn't, and you want your say no, that's great.
We can add too that the planning commission tonight votes to make a recommendation. You don't amend the zoning ordinance. You make a recommendation to the township board, who eventually will take this issue on, if regardless of what your recommendation is, and that'll afford the public also another opportunity to address then the township board, who will have the final say.
Correct. So I guess we'll open the floor to public comment. If you would come up to the stand and please state your name and address, and I guess.
You don't need address anymore. That's an OMA change. So just name.
Okay, just name on. I'm sorry.
I'm
Go
Joe
ahead.
Collins. I'm the pastor of Shoreline Wesleyan Church in Alpena, and I'm also here representing the Alpena Area Ministerial Association. And I appreciate your historical comments. That helps us to see a timeline there, and I appreciate the diligence that you guys are doing to take care of making sure this is a good ordinance. I have a lot of concerns. We deal with a lot of people with addictions and things like that as a church, and they're dealing with already alcohol and drug prevalence, and also with more and more availability of recreational marijuana or medical marijuana, which has really upped the availability for them in their struggle to resist that addiction. And marijuana has been for many of them a gateway drug. And you know, I've heard the arguments in the other way. I've seen the studies, and there are two bodies of information that people pull from. There's the pro and there's the con information. And I just have seen the struggles that people and individuals in this area, and specifically in the township, have faced. And I really strongly disagree with putting more accessibility. The other thing is, I have been a bus driver. And as a bus driver, I've experienced kids coming on the bus from their kids from their parents with the medical marijuana, kids coming on with a buzz. And just it really creates havoc for those bus drivers dealing with that. So there are many different areas that we can look into to see the negative impact already from the medical use that's been increased in the area. I'd hate for us to make a decision based on financial income, which is lost through social programs that need to replace the structures that a person loses through using the drug marijuana. Also through the excessive potency of the new marijuana that they're putting out there. It's not like the 70s, and it's something that people deal with the consequences of that addictive nature in a much greater potency. Aside from that, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to go through this, but we sent out an email last week, as well as gave a paper copy in last Friday. So if you guys received that, I tried to get it to everybody's email address. But it goes through some literary critique that has gone through a lot of the studies and helps to see our side of the view a little bit more clearly. I hope you'll get a chance to read that. It's an 8-page document, and it cites all of the different studies that were gone through as a part of that. So with that, I'll just take a step back.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I'm Dr. Donald Spaeth. I've been a practicing family physician for almost 40 years. I've written a letter, but I have some briefer comments on what's written in the letter. That's why I'm speaking. I too am concerned about the medical use of marijuana. It's a joke. It's not controlled. You don't know who's using the marijuana. You get a card from the physician and then you get a supply, and what you do with that supply is that. To me, medical marijuana should be treated just like any other narcotic. You go to the doctor, you get an exam, you get a prescription, and you go to a pharmacist who knows how to counsel you and who can regulate how much you use and how often you use it. That is not how it's being done. As the other gentleman spoke, somebody gets a medical marijuana card and a supply of drugs, and you don't know who they spread it around to. Which brings me to one of the big problems with the adult facility in-house use. How are you going to control the DUIs? We have trouble enough now coping with alcohol DUIs, but there's a test for that. You can do a breathalyzer. For marijuana, it's up to the discretion. There's no way of proving that you're under the influence unless you get a blood test. And if you get the blood test, you got to go to a lawyer to give you permission to give it, etc. So I think that's opening a whole bag of worms. I don't like the idea of growing marijuana, which is a business, in residential area. That will increase the traffic, people coming and going. It will increase the utilization of the utilities, water, electricity in the residential areas. It will increase public expense by the bureaucracy having to monitor the police and increased accidents caused by it. And, there are, I can think of 2 reasons for passing marijuana. One, you will get a little bit of money off of taxes. And 2, it is socially accepted, but that doesn't mean it's correct. You as officers of this county and township have the moral obligation to do what is best for the people and to protect us, even protect us from ourselves. I guess that's it. If somebody has some question about my comments, I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you.
He's pretty much says what he basically stated.
Hello, my name is Michael Kramer, and I'm a medical marijuana patient. I use it to treat cancer and to treat arthritis, and I've been using it for quite a long time. I've owned 3 businesses and run a 4th business. I'm quite a steady operator. I don't have any problems with any drugs, but I've been doing this for a long time. And the gentleman that commented about it's a gateway drug is really uninformed, because the only reason that marijuana was ever a gateway drug is because young people had to go to drug dealers that were also dealing cocaine and heroin, barbiturates. That's how they got their marijuana. So they were definitely being influenced by the drug dealer, who had an interest in getting them hooked on actually
Sir,
addictive
Sir,
drugs.
address the.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're.
But it's
Previous
important.
comments.
It's important that lies and misrepresentations are addressed personally, because this has been going on and on and on. The war on drugs is a total failure. It's making the drug cartels much richer. If we take this medicine, which has actually been proven to stimulate the endocannabinoid system in the human body, which makes for regenerative health automatically. And it's a whole plant medicine. There's no drug to it. The drug companies cannot make a pharmaceutical out of it because it has to be taken as a whole plant to be effective. So the misrepresentation that this is a wild drug is just misinformation. I happen to have a book that registers marijuana as an herbal remedy from the 1830s. As a matter of fact, the first American flags were made out of hemp. Everybody was required to grow hemp. And the rope is great, but the medicinal hemp, even George Washington used it. So it's a total misrepresentation that was fostered by the forced illegalization of hemp and marijuana. And it's been an illegal thing since the 30s because it was a better paper than wood. And the gentleman that owned Randolph Hearst, that owned the newspapers on the West Coast, had a bunch of forests. So he paid a lot of money to the American government to make marijuana illegal, and called it marijuana at that time. It has been a travesty of justice ever since. It helps me cure my cancer and my arthritis. And I don't know what these gentlemen are talking about. It's the best medicine that's ever been found. And as a matter of fact, the retired president of Harvard Medical School said it's the miracle drug of the 21st century. And by illegalizing it, America is falling behind the rest of the world in providing actual health care to people at a reasonable cost. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Terry Denmark. I'm here also with the AAMA, and one question to start with is there a limitation to the number of these establishments, or could there be 24 here in the township, or what? I quickly perused this because I had never seen it before. Thank you.
The planning commission and then the township board after the planning commission, this is regarding the proposed zoning ordinance amendment. So that'll talk about the types of marijuana establishments that would be authorized in the zoning ordinance. The township board, if this ordinance were adopted by the township board, to amend the zoning ordinance, would adopt a separate regulatory ordinance that would discuss whether to limit the number of facilities.
Okay.
So these amendments don't address that.
And then secondly, in number 12, it's got the distance requirement. I don't see churches in there. Are churches considered part of the educating of children, daycare of children, and the like? That's the second to
I think
the
you're
last
looking
page.
at section 12. Under B. Well, page
Page 10.
8 of 9, separation distances. I think this may be what you're referring to. I'll just read it. Healthcare marijuana facilities or adult use marijuana establishments shall not be located within 500 feet of any building used for education, childcare, or addiction treatment purposes, or a park.
State law,
I'm sorry. I couldn't-
So, yeah, so, yeah, let's have conversations at the podium and then to address, so the sir has the podium right now.
So are you saying that state law
Very set.
is already set? And that includes churches or not?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I didn't know that. I'm just learned this stuff. I guess I've been naive in that regard. When it comes to medical, I don't know what it does for you or doesn't for anybody. But when it comes to recreational, I came to Alpena in 1990 and stayed here 5 years trying to start a teen hangout center. And I had the school, high school behind me on that. And we unfortunately closed it down. But at the time, there was a problem with drugs in Alpena. And that was the purpose of coming to Alpena, my wife and I, to do that. And since my daughter has worked for the prosecuting attorney's office, and I've had the pleasure of discussing things with fellows like Russ and Judge Black and so on, and it's my understanding the drug situation is worsened in Alpena since the 90s. And my concern, I would echo what these guys said, why make it available for easier use, recreational use, and that type of thing, when we already are struggling so with helping our kids grow without damaging themselves emotionally, mentally, physically, and the like. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Dusty Paddock. I have been doing medical marijuana since almost the day it started. I've done it in many different states. I've done it all over with a bunch of different people. I've opened dispensaries. I've done just about everything you can think of in this industry. The reason why we try to do this is because it's pushing the cartel out, first off. It's giving people drugs or weed, whichever way you want to say it, that is clean, that is healthy, that is better for you than the stuff these children are getting off the streets. I'm not saying children should be using. I have a 13-year-old boy who was one of my first patients who had autism so bad, he had never touched his mother or said a word in his life. His mother came to me and gave me a big hug and told me that her little boy had walked into her bedroom that night, climbed in bed with her, curled up next to her and said, "I love you, mommy," for the first time after using marijuana for 1 week. There is bad people doing bad things no matter what you do. I agree, it's easy to get, but how many kids were taking Vicodin? How many kids were taking any other drug they could get out of their parents' prescription? It is not all bad. It is actually way better than a lot of these other things these kids are getting their hands on. I buried 12 friends after high school within 3 years because of drug overdoses. I can tell you 100%, not one of them was marijuana.
Thank you.
Dustin, your last name?
Paddock.
Paddock?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
My name's David Karshnick Jr. I own a building on M32 and Walter Street, which is zone business 2. And my question is, if you allow this to pass, does my building automatically zone for that, or is that something I would have to do separately? I'm not looking for a license to do anything, but I'm got some prospective buyers that possibly would be interested in purchasing my building.
Can address that, Dave. The proposed ordinance zoning amendment for the B2 district.
B2,
B2 allows all the proposed types of marijuana, medical and adult use, recreational adult use, proposed uses as special use permits in the B2 district. So it'd be allowable in your
there
district.
wouldn't be anything special I'd have to do.
There would be, for special use permits, there are required conditions. So if they wanted to take an existing building, there may be things they'd have to do.
Right,
And then the state would have requirements too.
okay,
But generally, your property would be zoned for.
okay,
these things.
thank you.
The state has just a whole list of requirements and
Sure, yeah.
safeguards that would be a part of the special use permit if we pass this ordinance.
Okay.
Any proposed buyer of your property would need to do his or her homework.
Go ahead. If nobody else is going up, so go ahead. We'll give you your second shot.
Michael Kramer again. And one thing I didn't mention last time, and it's very important to me. The biggest problem we've got in the United States and in this area is employment. That leads to a lot of the detrimental situations these folks are talking about. And one thing about the way this ordinance is structured, which I think is great, is that we're really using the rural land here as a part of this operation potentially. If a person has rural property and or a building where they can actually get involved in the production and the processing of this product, there's a lot of money that can be made in this for people in employment. I mean, the people in the dispensaries make a good income because they have to know what they're talking about to help people in picking up product. So I think we should look at this much more as an economic thing also. It's legal, it's a safe plant, as some people have testified to. If we control it, we're controlling something that should be controlled. My children never used it. They use it now when they're older, adults now, but not when they were young, but they didn't eat sugar either. So, you know, because I was a parent and I made damn sure they didn't. But if we can provide jobs for people in this area, why not? It would be crazy not to do that. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Joe Collins, I'd like to take my second shot. I was just remembering some of the statistics of Colorado, who's done this much sooner than Michigan in adopting the medical and recreational. And as they've done that, we've been able to see that the cartels are growing, that the black market is growing, that the use is getting younger and younger. And with that, we have a pretty clear example about what will happen when we look at our municipalities and what's going to happen. So I think it's smart for us to research that stuff and look around and say, okay, what did happen someplace where it's already been implemented? And then go from there and say, okay, is this a wise thing for us? Some of the stuff that I've also seen medically is that will shut down portions of the adult executive functioning part of the brain, which then causes you to be in fight or flight mode and increases the ability for somebody to get violent. And so I've reading through those statistics and going, okay, so if this is the way that reacts, is that what we want to do to our people? Is that the place that we want to take them? So those are just two things that I'd like to add that I also forgot.
Thank you. Any of our online guests have any? Oh, you're next, Russ? Okay.
I can go on.
Yes.
I'm Russ Reinert. And I know this is going to come to, well, it could come, depending on what you do, to the township board for our consideration. We probably, all of us as members of the township board would like it if you dealt with it here so we don't have to deal with it. But that may or may not be the case. The pro for a township like ours is clearly monetary. We can get some pretty good money from the state of Michigan and from permits to have facilities in our township. And I don't even know if at this level you'll even consider what types of facilities would be allowed. That's probably a township board thing. So I'm going to speak more from my background. I used to be a member of both juvenile and then later the adult drug court team in Alpena. The adult drug court team, we weren't dealing with marijuana so much. We were dealing mostly with alcohol. We were dealing with other more serious drugs that people become addicted to in adulthood. In the juvenile court, though, in the teenage group, marijuana was of primary concern. And I remember somebody smarter than me, in fact, I'll give you his name because you all know him, Joe Garrett, who was on the team. I quote him often because he said, if you have to put it in your mouth, light a match to it, and inhale the smoke into your lungs, it's not medicine. And I agree with that. I mean, it's just another cigarette at that point. Now, I recognize that much of the marijuana today for medical purposes is delivered in a different form than the smoking unit. But some of them, it's through vape pens. And we found with the teenagers that those are even more addictive and more dangerous than some of the rolled joints. From a law enforcement perspective, it is difficult. I will tell you that. Because, as I think Dr. Spaeth or somebody said, there's a pretty good test on the road for alcohol, and the police can make an arrest decision on the spot by what is legally available to them. But for marijuana, they have to ask for a blood draw, and if there's no consent for the blood draw, then they have to go get a search warrant, hold the person there at the scene, go get a search warrant, bring it back, take them to the hospital, get the blood draw. That usually is a minimum of an hour and a half time frame. And usually by that time, as marijuana seems to do, it dissipates from the system so quickly that it's hard to tell what the level was, the nanograms, but it's also, then it's all dependent upon what we used to have to do in drunk driving cases for enforcement before there was a road test. And so what has to be done then is almost a trial in every case. And then they have to prove that they had exhibited evidence of intoxication or inability to function to drive the car. So it is a law enforcement problem. And I would like to think that people that are using it for medical reasons aren't also driving, but we know that that's not true, at least in the broader sense of the recreational use. And so one of the things I hope you folks will consider is, what do we want in our community? We see the marijuana billboards all up and down US 23 for communities like Tawas, Marysville, and soon to be the city of Alpena. But we don't, I don't know if we can even see alcohol billboards anymore or cigarette billboards, because I think they've restricted that. But right now, they're not restricting marijuana billboards, and they're out there. So what do we want to see in our community from an aesthetic standpoint? What do we want to see in our community from, someone talked about the traffic it generates? Maybe that'll be good. Maybe that'll help retail. So it's one of the things you folks have to consider. We're past the time of talking about outlawing marijuana. We've already approved that as a state referendum, in a state referendum. But we still have the opportunity to decide what we want in our community. And hope you folks will consider that as part of your consideration And if it gets to the township board level, I hope we do as well. Thanks.
And there's 6 licenses, Russ, and those would all could be approved by special use in different districts.
And different types of use.
Well, there's 6 different licenses, yes. Yes, marijuana growers, class ABC, marijuana micro business, provisioning centers, marijuana retailers, marijuana processors, marijuana safety compliance facilities, and marijuana secure transporters. Those are the 6 licenses. And those are, could be in different zones.
Nathan Skibby. This is a unique time for us. I think as a nation and as a district that is trying to deal with our average age of individuals in our community of mid to late 60s, of which the vast majority, if not all of your life, the topic of cannabis was that of an illegal substance. We now live in a state that has changed those perceptions and those laws accordingly. I think part of the negative connotation, because very much like the good book always says, is God gave us free will. But I'm not here to spew any misinformation or dice up partial truths. Addiction in this community is a hot topic. But I'm waning on the fact of allowing the false verbiage of gateway drug to fall squarely on the shoulders of cannabis. When the true gateway drug, if you're from this area especially, comes in a bottle. It also comes in bottles that are prescribed by medical professionals. That doesn't make it right or wrong. It simply leaves it to the point that people have a choice. That is one of the beautiful things about our country and about this area. It's not to belittle the concerns that we all share. I gravely share. I know for myself, I personally have had a problem with a substance that I've had to overcome. But that substance isn't cannabis. And I say, instead of focusing solely, because I think getting back to the negative connotation, is it simply focused on dispensaries. There's a lot more to this industry that is outside the scope of dispensaries. As this commission knows, going over this discussion for the past 7 months plus is, what does it look like in our community? How does it have, and how do we mitigate negative impacts to our community? A statement was made, and there are some truths to it, that in states that have preceded us in legalization, that there is a spike in the potential illegal activities. The clarifying point to that, because it is true, are in communities that don't have zoning mechanisms for control. That is oftentimes where those illegal operations take place. I think that this commission has taken its time and efforts to work through this topic diligently. And long and short is, it may not be a motion of a recommendation this evening, but it would be at some point in time a potential recommendation for the Board of Trustees, as Trustee Reinhardt stated. And it really comes down to just that, a personal stance. I had a problem with alcohol. I have just as much right to walk into a store that sells that as any other substance that's legal. It's a choice to walk through that doorway. Not saying that it's right or wrong, but it is a choice. And it's better from my standpoint to have a governing amendment to an ordinance to have controls in place than to say no, because we're already seeing issues in other municipalities close to our township that have not taken any proactive steps in terms of control. And that's where that abusive nature starts to take place. Because by no means. I have a 2.5-year-old son. I don't see how as a good parent, because there were some good things in letters from both you, Mr. Collins, and another gentleman that isn't here, that had some good points. But to disguise it with some partial truths, it doesn't do this discussion any positive. Because this is the greatest part about our nation, is that we can actually have discussion. We don't have to run to a social media site. If you have questions, these meetings have taken place for 7 months. I always welcome as much public attendance at every Board of Trustees meeting, because we represent what is supposed to be the best direction forward. And one of the best directions forward, whether you like it or not, because all 6 licensures as it stands within this potential zoning amendment are all by special use. So outside of the egregious amounts of steps that Laura makes any applicant take through the state level, there's also the opportunity for this municipality to have very stringent markers in place that are actually on top of that. And that is a control mechanism like no other in the state. Because if we want to strike out cannabis from this community, which will never happen because it is here, it will not leave. Your neighbors can grow it, and we don't have the control measures at that point. Where does it stop? And I think even if you're against this topic, to identify the fact that having more control is better than having no control is that gray area in which we live in today. So I support everybody's opinions. I just don't like to cower behind partial truths and misinformation. This committee has done a great job to this point, and whatever resources that need to be had to continue to educate yourselves, that has always been made available. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Get your second try. But you're here, so.
But I'm here.
Yes.
And I'm surprised a lot of younger parents aren't here. Did I state my reason for residential areas, these micro businesses? I don't know how many we really need. Because the medical part, maybe everybody can agree on that, because no one really knows the truth about that, except maybe a person that's using it. And I've seen the TV programs, and maybe that's all you've seen. But I really want to keep it out of the residential areas, because yes, you're probably right. We're not going to stop it. It's here. It's always been here. Maybe you've never been supportive of it. And the township isn't. We voted to not want it. The vote is there. You've stated it yourself, but yet you're working with the state, law too. But keep it out of those residential areas that are supposed to be for our families and raising the young kids that everyone probably agrees we don't want them. We don't want to have to even explain it to them. I mean, I have lived next to teachers in a subdivision. Oh, that's all he deals with is these vape pens or whatever they are. That's how you get addicted, because you're following your friends. We've all had the smoking pens. I grew up with them. Now we spend millions to not want to take it. And that's the kind of community you want. You don't want to promote this stuff. It's here. People that need it for medical have always been getting it anyway. It's probably going to be cheaper in the black market than the legal market. We don't know that. I don't know that. You don't know. But keep it out of the residential areas the best you can. You don't need 20 different places to get it in Alpena. The city could supply the whole demand for the whole county very easily. Let them take it for a while. You won't lose that much money, I don't think.
Thank you. Just to be, just so, I'll just bring up a point that the marijuana micro businesses are allowed in R3 or proposed allowable in R3 districts.
And
That's also by special permit.
what is our? Because in here in the paper, residential. That's why
It's,
I'm here to support a prosecutor or former prosecutor and law enforcement.
Thomas, on
He knows
page
what's
429.
R3 is mixed residential use. It is an overlay scenario. R1 is the most, well, waterfront residential and R1 are the most restrictive for residential use only. Unless it is an in-home business. There's certain special uses there. R3 is in outlying residential areas where there is mixed business use. So
standard provisions in my neighborhood is that mixed use. He's not in that. Slaughterhouse.
I
Business.
42 years old, and I've known that the slaughterhouse on Mud Lake is always dumped. I have an older brother. You want to kick him off? He'll throw you in Mud Lake, and I'll be drained of blood by the leeches.
But anyway, we know.
R3 allows, R3,
Well, legally right now, every one of us could have 12 plants going from there. At every one of our own houses, so keeping it out of the neighborhood is pretty hard to do.
this would be a legal business, and R3 is, sporting goods, hobby, music stores, stuff like that. It allows everything that's in R1 and R2 plus a little bit more.
Most of them are all special use. Got them all.
Yeah, I get, you're right, Norm.
Discuss it too much, but I know nothing about it. But some of this growing outdoors, I've seen it growing outdoors. I can't say where. It's supposedly been sold. The guy has a medical card, he grows it, doesn't use it, he can get rid of it real easy. Maybe on the computer, maybe not.
But yeah, that's, if you want to make a comment, please come up to the podium.
I've seen it.
Yeah. And we've had some presentations by, and actually I have I visited the store in Rogers City, and whether you're against or for marijuana, it is when it's in the store setting, it is very controlled. I mean, they know, they follow it from seed to a cigarette or whatever edible. I mean, it is very controlled, and the money is
Too bad.
well, no, I mean, you're required to have a vault and a security system like better than any bank has, but that doesn't mean, I just wanted to see what was going on there. And that doesn't mean, it's the business part of it. If we're just debating that, that would be, there's so much security that you don't get in without a driver's license, and they know if you've, I talked to the manager. So if I went to Rogers City and got my marijuana, and then my medical, for example, and then I went the next day to Harrisville and tried to get it, well, they would know I had just been, so it is controlled. That part is controlled. But whether you like the effects of the drug or not, I'm not saying, but this is the part of the business part of it is the state has some control or a lot of control over it. And it's just not like, like I've said in previous meetings, we've seen the Cheech Chong with going down the road with smoke coming out of the windows of their van. Well, that is not what I saw there, but just the business part of it is, it's got so many, it's got rules. I mean, I don't know, you have to go in there with a lot of capital to start that business. Anybody online? Michelle, how are you?
I'm just fine, Tom. Thank you.
Any comments?
None that haven't been heard. Thank you.
Okay.
So this does leave, we are still in a public hearing, but this does leave one concern and comment that may have some bearing before consideration of recommendation of 149, and that would be, and we can have Denise's online, that discussion of a micro business, the potential of removing that from an R3 to satisfy that residential concern. And then also, I think one thing that took place at a previous meeting and was removing all licensures from OS, which is office space. In further conversation, I have zero disagreement with the potential of removing a dispensary because that doesn't fit the nature of an office space. But there are 5 other licensures, well, 4 other licensures outside of growing that would meet the standards of an office space use. And it's just my thought as if there is going to be a recommendation in the future that things are done up and above and beyond to have clarification to the potential zoning amendment that the Board of Trustees would be looking.
I have a question about that. R3, does R3 allow, I know it has multi-business allowances, does it allow liquor stores?
Yes. Yes.
Well, then that can't be ruled out. That's ridiculous. Liquor stores are by far the most damaging thing to our youth and our adults in this country. And if we allow liquor stores in R3, then cannabis dispensaries should surely be allowed there.
I'll agree. We can just take them out of vote.
Yeah.
Right, you have a question and it left me. What was it? When it comes to employment, okay, we've got businesses around here that can't find employment because they don't meet the drug policy. And they're trying to get employees like crazy. And now we're introducing another drug that's prohibited from many of these businesses, and they're not going to change that policy. That's something that's a safety factor that they're trying to make sure stays in place. What are we going to do about the fact that as more people are exposed, more people are using, they don't pass the drug tests, and now we've got a bigger crisis of employment? Is that something that's factored into the discussions on the business end of what's going on there?
I think that every conversation's been kind of hammered out, and it's always the position of a government municipality of very similar to the separation of church and state, is that private sector, we provide zoning. This committee provides the zoning, the footprint, if you will. It's not a government restriction at this level of government to dictate nor mandate drug testing. But it is a concern.
But you're trying to service those businesses as a township to make sure that they are a place that is a conduit to be able to supply employees. And that also brings revenue and builds the township into a place where people want to be. And so I think it has to be a consideration at the foundation of this whole thing is, what are we going to do when we can't provide people to fill the positions that we already have? And now we're going to introduce another potential drain on that employment base.
I guess the language of introduce would be probably a potential farce solely because it's not an introduction, it's already here.
But you're introducing a whole new avenue of producing that.
Sure, come on up.
A lot of the, extend to the podium, a lot of businesses actually pull marijuana off of the substances that they will test for before jobs.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
speak into the
Oh,
mic. So,
sorry.
yeah, there's a few
So
people on.
a lot of the industries have removed marijuana from their substances list. So you'll go in for your drug test, and if you fail for marijuana, they'll still give you the job. I can tell you there's a ton of them out there.
Can you name some names?
Myers at one time did, but then they changed it back. I know that most of the discount tires did, a lot of the oil change places. I lived downstate most of my life. My family had property up here forever, so I was always coming up here. Just recently moved up here, like within the last year. But everything downstate, doesn't matter. You just tell them ahead of time that you'll fail for marijuana, and they'll still give you the job. As long as you don't lie to them. Telling the truth up front, they'll be fine with it. So.
I also just 5 years ago transplanted. Experience a lot of physicals and all that kind of stuff. I also know business owners up here.
There's certain ones that you can't fail on, as far as like if you're a bus driver or if you're driving for the city of some sort, anything like that, then guaranteed. But a lot of the main companies have been told that they're no longer allowed to test for marijuana.
Not had that experience and have not heard those. So
Okay.
there are no businesses that I know of that are in this area.
Okay.
I know DOT
DOT requires.
DOT is federal, so that is.
Any federal job you have to be able
yes.
to pass because it's not federally legal.
It's not legal, federal. Yes, correct. Thank you. I guess no more comments or,
Did you want to bring Denise on?
oh, go ahead. Yeah, Denise, you have anything? I'm sorry, I thought you would,
No, I don't have anything to add at this moment. Thanks.
Denise Klein helped us, or she's written these ordinances for other municipalities, and she was a huge benefit putting this one together because of her experience. So we thank her for that. She's not for or against, she's just doing she's writing the.
Yep, that's right.
Thank you. It looks like we're come to the point where nobody's. I would like to thank everyone here for the respect they have shown each other. That's sometimes when we're pro and con, we get into these yelling matches, and we leave the board out of it because we're yelling back and forth. But I really appreciate the respect that you've shown each other with, whether you agree or disagree. So thank you very much for that. Okay, I guess we need a motion to close.
Motion to close the public hearing, yes.
I'll make a motion. I'll support.
Larry and Matt supports. Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, closed. Public hearing is closed. Okay, where we're gonna go from here is what we have to decide, the board. Tim?
Now would be the time to determine, you've got a draft proposed ordinance. If you want to make any changes to that, this would be a good, if someone wants to make a motion to recommend to the township board or to not recommend to the township board, especially if you're recommending, make sure you're clear as to the substance of the ordinance. If you want to change anything, person making the motion should address that. If it's just, we recommend no, as written or in any other form, then that would be the motion. But if it's recommending yes, then right now you'd be recommending this ordinance written in this form. So if there's anything regarding the office district, office service district, or regarding R3, keep that in mind.
Well, as of right now, the marijuana micro business is allowed by special permit in R3. No permits are allowed in office services. That's the way it is written. And then there's other licenses that aren't allowed in, say, B1 district. All are allowed in B2 and B3 with special permit. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I think we've received some good information tonight. I think there's some thought process that maybe we need to kick around in our own heads. And I think we could digest this until our next meeting. If we could table this to the next meeting, and if there's some changes that we want to see made, we've had a chance to think about them, ask some other people about them. I picked up a couple ideas or suggestions, but maybe nobody else did, but it's just, there's a lot of information here, and we want to do this, whatever we do, to the best of our ability. So I think another meeting, give us a couple weeks to run this through our heads a little bit, talk about it ourselves once in a while or whatever. I think it'd be good for the board.
In that case, you had the public hearing. If you address it at a subsequent meeting, any member of the public would have an opportunity to further address your commission through public comment. Wouldn't be the wide open public hearing that we had tonight, but they'd have more time to provide input to your commission in additional letters or emails.
Any comments on the board on that?
I do like, I think maybe we should revisit the office space use a little bit, because looking at that again, will admit I agree with Nathan. There are some of those businesses that could maybe slot in there, but I think that could use some more discussion.
We only have a couple small areas that are office services that on the corner of Long Rapids and Genshaw, and then around Hamilton. But
So
that's
it's not very big, not very significant.
but there's a daycare center there.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know
That
if that I don't think we can
Okay.
put anything in within the 500. I'm just,
Yeah.
the good comment though, but I think those are the only two we have, right? Nathan?
Yeah,
Office services?
it's a pretty small geographic landmass that's zoned office space. It was just a consideration because there again, I think it's too easy to lump all 6 licensures into the discussion mindset of dispensaries.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at a delay of anything, then that's never a bad thing. Time to think it's, well, it can't be a bad thing, but at least you guys are doing your due diligence. So I'm not a member of this commission. But
Well, I'll withdraw then if it's.
Well, no, you don't have to. I'm just stating what I
Okay.
know about office services. Yeah.
And
Okay.
the daycare, existing daycare, it may not be a daycare for the next 100 years. So that wouldn't be the factor in whether you're looking at office district allowing it or not, because there's a daycare now. It may disqualify that particular area, 500 feet distance. But so, add that.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we table this to our next meeting and give us some thought for that information we received tonight, that we could maybe come up with a better decision on which way we decide. I made a motion, so it's up to anybody's
So we
support.
need support, yeah. I'll support. That supports.
okay. Roll call.
Roll call.
Hilbert,
Aye.
Redosi,
Aye.
Code,
Yes.
Darren.
Yes.
Ordinance 149 has been tabled to the subsequent. Of which your next meeting is tentatively scheduled for the sweetest day of the year, February 14th at 7 p.m. That's what I'm told by Hallmark cards.
My wife works. So that works for me.
150.
It's 150, because in my notes, she actually has it as 149. Thank you very much for the point of clarification, sir.
Yeah, I changed it to 150 because of our other ordinances
Yeah,
that
we
are
had
in the
a
works.
couple ordinance amendments in play, and so the numerical sequencing, but I appreciate the clarification.
And one more order of business. We now do not have a vice chair. And we are going to have an organizational meeting where we're going to elect officers, but until we do, we should have a vice chair.
Well, then, if you'd like to make an appointment by a motion to appoint a vice chair for the interim till your meeting, then you could do it by motion.
No.
But he always shakes his head.
Michelle.
when he's-
Michelle is what, no,
Michelle would
because
make
what about our secretary? Michelle, do you want to be secretary or vice chair?
Actually, I'm the secretary, and I'm gonna actually probably appoint Lynn Doust, who's our administrative assistant, to fill in, because it's unfair for a sitting member of this commission to be afforded taking minutes and participating. So I'll be making those arrangements, and it's not based upon sexual orientation. So we gotta be mindful of who is appointed as secretary, male or female.
I have done the minutes too, so.
I know I got support with Russ.
I can't make a motion, but I would like Michelle to be the vice chair, seeing everyone else is shaking their head no.
Oh, she's unmuted herself.
So who's gonna make that motion?
I'll make that motion if she's willing to take it.
I'll second.
She's not here, so she doesn't have a say.
Sorry, Michelle.
Okay.
Let's start talking about gender specificity here, Tom. I'm more than happy to accept it. I'm more than happy to accept vice chair and look forward to seeing you all in February.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
roll
Norm
call,
made the
please.
motion and Larry second, right?
Yep, I got Norm and Larry. Roll call, we'll start with Foley,
Yes.
Redosi,
Yes.
Code,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
and Chair Hilbert.
Yes.
Congratulations, Ms. Woodruff. You are now officially the vice chair of the planning commission for the Charter Township of Alpena. With that motion being had, is there any other discussion?
Okay. Motion to dismiss. to
No, I
adjourn.
one other thing.
Okay, Norm. I'm
Um,
sorry.
We have a planning commission, or planning, I gotta say it here, for capital improvement programs. Has anything been sent out to this board, Nathan?
I know that it's been sent to Chair Hilbert, and I believe that we've had feedback from a few of the members, so I would have to say that, yes, that Michelle has sent it to all sitting members of the planning commission in
Okay.
regards to the joint meeting.
Yes. So if there's, and we'll need to know when, who is coming or attending.
Norm, this is Michelle. Is that the one on the 22nd that you're
Yes.
referring to? Okay, thank you.
So February 22nd at 1:30 to 4 PM. The Township Board and the Planning Commission is going to come together, whoever can make it. And we need to know who's coming so they can send the proper material for training on us coming and building a capital improvement program.
I have already responded, yes.
Who are we supposed to respond to?
To Michelle, and there is a deadline for that. I think it's the 15th, but so sooner the better. Then I have to notify the trainer. So
See, it came
within
up
the
as
next,
a,
week or so, if you could, check your calendar.
it came up as a calendar invite, so I just replied yes, so I assume that did.
Okay, she may not have told you the deadline, but I think it's the 15th.
I didn't even get the date.
Did you get this letter?
You're on here.
I'm on there, but I
Okay.
didn't, I had to
1:30.
write her back, I had to email her back, but because she didn't have a date out.
Okay, 1:30 to 4 on the 22nd.
It was 1:30 to 4, but.
Okay.
22nd.
Did you get this?
No, I got it on the phone.
Okay, fine, you got it.
Yeah, I
Information.
got a notification, but I'll be working.
Well, we would love to have as many members of this commission present because it is a integral part of strategic planning and moving forward with capital role and improvements. So
In my past life, it got things, have a plan, I got things rolling, and I mean, we have other documents that also address that, but
of which you'll be looking at hopping back into, I believe, the master plan cycle in roughly 14 months.
okay. I don't know if we need a motion to,
It's just a adjournment signified by you. Chair.
okay. Thank you, everyone, and meeting is adjourned.